Okay, this video is about 4 years overdue. Should have, I guess I couldn't have really put it together way back then because I was still learning and still on my journey, but certainly for at least a year or two I have been slacking and not being obedient to my Father in heaven. So here I am at 3 in the morning taking like my 4th or 5th attempt to get this out there without boring myself to death. It's not going that great. So anyway, the whole point of the video is to offer my testimony about my journey from the dark to the light, and how I came out of being deceived through the grace of Jesus Christ himself, who showed me the way. But I know that there are many people out there that are genuinely seeking the truth, just like I was, trying to figure out what's going on and are being led astray. Spiritual forces in this world, and I have got to do my part, as painfully shy that I may be, to warn others and share this gift that was freely given to me with anyone who cares enough to sit through this video and listen. So, I guess I should start with just a little history. Obviously, I wasn't always Christian, and I actually grew up with a lot of I wasn't denied, exploring like with friends and stuff, going to churches and stuff, but I was always left with bad taste in my mouth because of the way that men portrayed God, if you will. So I mistook that distrust for man and the perversion of what I knew in my heart to be the way of God, God's way and God's will, even as a small child, as I took that, I held that against God himself, which was my mistake. I had to learn that was man and not God. So I kind of had like a chip on my shoulder, I guess. I was a fortress around me. I was a little bitter, I must say, and obviously confused. But I still kept I still talked to God all the time, and still felt him in my heart, even though I didn't know what to call him. So I didn't believe in a particular deity or whatever, but I definitely have always known since I was a little girl, I wanted to be a nun, and I didn't understand Catholicism at all, but I really wanted to serve God even since I was, like 7 years old or whatever when I thought about that. And so there's that. Then the world and its influences, public school for one, and just in general, mankind not representing the truth, scaring his children away. So I didn't believe in Satan. I thought that was just made up stuff too. And I didn't have a really good understanding of the whole story. Just thought people were bad. But one night, I was deeply seeking, searching for answers. At this point in my life, I think I was living with a roommate. I just finally broken up with this jerk I used to see for 14 years on and off in my life, like my first love. He did a lot of damage. But I finally broke up with him for one of the last times. And I was living with this girl, and I was really trying. I was really seeking, looking for answers. I wasn't understanding what was happening with the world and starting to realize that nothing was what it seemed. And one night, it was in August 2009, August 14th, 2009, I wrote this song just before I went to bed. And I'm just going to read the lyrics because I can't remember how it goes on the guitar. It's called Amateur Sleuth, and it says, "Well, enough with these lies, these games must be through. Allow me to see and be the judge of whether or not I can handle the truth. Because there is something inside of me that cannot just leave this alone, that must keep on digging down to the bone. Because every time I think I've found a truth, there they are to obscure it away. With their buckets of disinformation, their never-ending, fast-talking half-truths, just to throw me off my track, but they can't fool me, I'm an amateur sleuth. And while that's something, it must be my heart, guiding me ever closer still, in spite of all their distractions that they only stage to be in our way. Because the truth is always the truth, and they can only disguise it with their lies. And the heart will always see straight through it once you learn to really listen to it." And I will read from my dream journal the day after. So I guess that was August 13th that happened, and this is from August 14th. I asked the universe to bless me with a vision, which is a dangerous thing to do, by the way, I have to say. But then I was innocently really seeking and searching, so I didn't know better. But now, knowing what I know, I wouldn't. It's like there's some passage in the Bible that says something about a wicked generation that seeks a sign or something. That just, let me say, you open doors that aren't from God, so it's really not a good idea. Don't do it. Okay, so I asked the universe to bless me with a vision as I laid my head to rest last night. I meditated from about 11:30 to midnight about it, asking for protection and guidance, something to show me if I'm on the right path or which path to choose. I asked the universe to show me the way, basically. I drifted off and was abruptly woken up with an almost startled panic feeling, heart racing hard in my throat, but not fear-based, just ultra exhilaration, which prompted my adrenaline, my fight or flight reaction. And I jolted straight up in bed, sitting up. I was like, scream, and I saw, without wearing my glasses, a bear dog creature. My first thought was bear, and he was right up in my face. I could feel him breathing. I felt an exhale in my face, and it was like he was going to kiss me or suck my breath or something like that. And he had really kind eyes and seemed dismayed that I'd woken up and disturbed whatever it was doing. And it slowly turned its head to the right and floated off into the ether, just like kind of slithery, I guess. When I saw his profile, it seemed to be part dog with sheep-style dog, wavy long hair, locks. It was a beautiful golden chocolate and seemed to shimmer. I looked over at the clock, and it was exactly 1 a.m. So I know it was awake. And then it was like I was in the shower, and it reminded me of that dog thing, dragon thing I saw in the Never-Ending Story. But it was a little different, obviously. And then I wanted to paint it. It's like, oh, it's so neat. I wish I could, paint it or capture it. So, and I remember even actually buying a bunch of paints, but I never actually did it. So, not that I could. My talents and skills in that department, but and then some time later, in April of 2010, I was obviously back with Jerk again because I was eating dinner with him at a Chinese restaurant and noticed a statue and got really excited and asked the lady what it was, and she told me it was a Kai Lin. So I went and did some research on it because it was really close to what I had seen in my vision, you know. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. So did some research on that, was excited about it because it was had all these really cool things about it, supposedly in the folklore surrounding it. Said to appear in conjunction with the arrival of a sage, and it's a good omen that brings rui, I think I'm saying that right, roughly translated as serenity or prosperity. So at first it was like all these good things, and then he was doing a gentle creature, careful when he walked not to squish the smallest of bugs, and lived off the grass that he ate that had already lived its life, which is funny because I'm kind of uber sensitive like that too. I save spiders and stuff. So I thought that was cute too at the time, and so I'm like, oh, it's totally cool. And I asked for a sign and I got a sign. It was pretty exciting. But several months later, during seemingly unrelated research into the topic of the New World Order, I was left feeling queasy when I learned that it also symbolizes the protector of secret knowledge, the esoteric knowledge. So maybe he was there guard dogging me after all. I don't know. It's very strange. I don't understand. But definitely something that happened whether I was dreaming or not. So I've got some pictures here. One that I found that it almost looks like the vision that I saw, even with sparkles and everything like that. I wish I could. Maybe I can put a picture in here somewhere. But then the little statues of the dragon dog thing and foo dogs, sometimes they're called. Sometimes people say they are the same, not the same, whatever. The flower of life is what they. One of them stands on to protect, and it also represents the esoteric knowledge. Flower of life is considered by some to be a symbol of sacred geometry, said to contain ancient religious value depicting the fundamental forms of space and time. In this sense, it is a visual expression of the connections life weaves through all sentient beings, and is believed to contain a type of akashic record of basic information of all living things. So it's some more poems, blah blah blah. So we're going to go back in time again to October 16th, 2009. And this is when I started having weird things happen, and they weren't so benevolent, and so it started making me question things more. I am actually I think I'm going to read from the journal that I wrote, dream that a description of the dream that I had on October 4th first, and then go back to that other one because it's the chronological way. So this is where it gets really creepy. Okay, so in this dream, October 4th, 2009, which is actually a significant date for other reasons. In 2005, on the same day, I had a really bad thing happen to me by some people that were supposed to be my friends. And so it's kind of a creepy date. And I don't know if I knew that consciously or not. But for some reason, this date does not like me. Bad things, creepy things happen. So anyway, I was in a field full of people, and everyone had lights over their heads, like balls of electricity, white and alive. I was shown a boy that was standing on the side of the crowd by himself in the shadows. He appeared very sad and lost, and over his head was a black cloud, much the same shape as the other electric clusters, but his was alive and moving, but it was black energy, like black lightning, I guess. I was told by a person standing either behind me or to my side, and just out of sight, that my job was to turn on his light. Upon these instructions, I remember being just full of joy, and I just approached him with nothing but love, no fear, just complete loving. I just wanted to hug him. So, like a child, though, like a child that sees his best friend on the playground. And when I was suddenly and violently attacked from all angles by a group of men, they swarmed around me and began to beat me up. One of them told me, "You work for Satan," and the next thing I see is a right fist coming in towards my left of my face. I see a bright flash of light, hear a loud pop, pop, and then I woke up. And I was completely freaked out by the dream and buried it quickly under my logical and rational face, just wrote it off as a weird dream. Went back to bed, woke up with a question ringing in my ears: are we the movers of the light? And I even put that on my MySpace heading back in the day when MySpace was the thing to do. and it says, I now find this even more disturbing and confusing because through my recent studies I've learned that the name Lucifer literally translates to light bearer. What the heck is going on here? So I'm starting to get freaked out. Starting to go, what the heck is happening? Later that day, about 3 in the afternoon, I noticed in the bathroom mirror that my left eye was bruised, greenish blue to black, right where I was punched in the dream. And that sent my fear to an unknown level. I did not believe in Satan. How in the heck could I be scared of this silly stuff? But the black eye was very real. I could see it. I was like, "Is this? Do you see this? Yes, you see this. Okay, I have a black eye." And I'm like, "Oh, well, I must have punched myself in my sleep. That's it. Whatever." So I wrote it off. Until about 2 weeks later, I started doing more research after my sleep paralysis experience, which I'll describe now. And this is where I started to stumbled onto the greatest thing in the universe. So here we go. This is 10/16/2009. I woke up this morning at 4:23. Got a big cup of water and came back to bed. Was facing my window with my back to my closet and drifted quickly back to sleep. Sometime later, I was awakened by whispering, a sinister voice coming from behind me from the closet, as silly as that sounds. It startled me awake, and I was paralyzed with fear, unable to turn my head and face where the voice was coming from. I wouldn't have turned around if, I don't know, like there was nothing in the world that was going to get me to turn around. And I happened to have a doll on my bed that my mom made me, because I must have been scared the night before when I went to bed. I don't go to sleep with, I never did when I was a kid. I didn't have a teddy bear. I didn't have that. I didn't care. Something was freaking me out, at least subconsciously, so I had gone to bed with my little baby, and I held her and just, let's see, so I prayed to the universal source for protection from malicious entities, because, that's all I knew, and was quickly back to sleep. So I remember being thirsty, but I wouldn't turn around to get a drink of water for nothing. There's no way. I felt so much of a presence of dread, evil. I just can't explain to you. So, and then later, I was awakened while lying on my back by an index finger tapping me. It felt like somebody came and went, just like thumped me on the head right there. And then it felt like someone got on the bed and lay down next to me. I was being hugged from both sides of my body, like a warm, friendly, first pseudo-erotic massaging that increased in its intensity, so it kind of moved up my body until I felt it become suffocating. And about this time I realized I can't move, and my entire body is paralyzed, and I'm starting to get scared. pressure is feeling more and more oppressive and sinister. I tried to scream for my roommate to come help me, but my voice, I couldn't scream, I couldn't do anything, open my mouth, and nothing. It was like my throat was sealed shut. All I could do was think at that point, to pray in my mind. I called out for the Creator's protection, and nothing. I was like, universal source, and saying all this stuff, and then finally I'm like, Jesus Christ, whatever you want to call yourself. And then just as soon as I said that, it was like, snap, done, free. Like, I was up, and I thought I was awake. I ran out of the room, across the hall, like everything was realistic as far as being like in the house. It really is. Trying flipping on lights, jumped, went through Justine's door, like climbed on her bed, felt her kitty's nose touch my arm or whatever. When I got it, felt completely real. She reassured me it was just a dream. I go back to the other side of the room and realize that the room's completely chaos. The bed's flipped over, everything's crazy. She's like, oh yeah, that was me, I did that. And I look at her, I'm like, oh my gosh, and I realize I'm still dreaming, so I wake up again. Same thing in my bed. Run across the hall, same thing. Again, Justine, help me, help me. And she's like, oh, you're fine, you're just having a nightmare because you're worried about so-and-so trying to smother you with some relationship you don't want to be in, and all that. So I'm like, yes, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, okay. So I'm going back to my room, and now I'm looking in my closet for something to wear, and I realize that people that I work with are standing in the room with me, and I'm like, are you just going to stand there and watch me get dressed? So I woke up again, and now this time I'm like, awake, I think. It was really strange. I didn't like that experience, but it made me think, and the evil part of it, I guess, if you will, the part where I felt dread, like I felt like I was dying, like I was going to a bad place or something, like my soul was getting taken. It was very, very not okay. But I was like, why did saying Jesus have an effect? Let's see, I was doing a lot of like songwriting and artwork and stuff like that, and I started wondering, because I'm trying to figure out. Let's see. I was paying little attention to the meaning behind the symbolism in my works, just kind of letting them make themselves. And then these dreams and stuff I've been having and beckoned me to inquire further in. So I was still battling within myself over the dream where I was told that I worked for Satan and being punched in the face, the fact that I had a real black eye and that I was too afraid to even face something I didn't believe in anyways was bothering me constantly, lingering just below my casual daily activities, conversations. I did not want to work for Satan even if I didn't believe that he existed, wittingly or otherwise. So I was really encouraged to seek and find. I was disturbed by the things I was painting and writing, now knowing after doing my research what I could find on occult symbolism and stuff like that. I've been questioning their inspirational source ever since. Like one time I was unable to sleep till I got out of bed and had to paint this picture, which I still have, and this is it. And it's like this blue flame, purple flame, and in the flame in the middle of the field. So when I was painting this, I was thinking to myself, this is where the fire starts, at the grassroots, and the flame is representing the love of Jesus. But I was calling it the Christ consciousness. And for some reason, obviously, it was all of the New Age material I was bombarding myself with, found myself attracted to, I guess is the way to describe it, just magnetized to. But it was deception. It was a lie. And it was the enemy putting that in my way, like the song that I wrote, the roadblocks. But the truth is always the truth. So keep seeking, you'll find. So I was concerned. I'm like, okay, so whose side am I on? What is going on here? This is craziness. And I would try to talk to people that are, my best friend even, she's like, she thought I was going schizophrenic. I was questioning my own sanity. I'm like, what is happening? I've done too many drugs. I don't know. I was really having a hard time with that. So, but now, obviously, now I know what's going on. Yeah. Serious spiritual warfare, people. Which is also something that I was told to look into by angels. I hadn't even heard the term, but God sent a messenger, and I heard an audible command to look into spiritual warfare and to keep an open mind, but not believe everything you hear, because Lucifer is very deceptive. And thank God for that wisdom and that guidance. So, and then there's some more songs that I wrote that I was like, I don't know, I just don't know. It's a fine line. That's what the enemy does. Is he tries to plagiarize God's work, make it his own. So there was a song that I wrote, and then I changed just a couple words, which completely perverted the meaning. And that is how I started to figure out what my dream meant. Is that's how I was working for the enemy, even though I didn't know it. I was, and it really got my attention and made me really question everything. Almost to the point where I didn't trust anything, or like this. I couldn't speak out because I was so unsure. I'm like, can I trust it? Can I not trust it? Is this really from God? But I've grown stronger in my relationship with Jesus, and learning to trust and just do His will. So anyway, at that time when I was having all these experiences, I was deeply immersed in New Age ideas, reading all that J. Krishnamurti stuff. It's horrible. Anybody that's into that should look into the Nazi occult history of the Third Reich, Blavatsky, Freemason, Satanism, and see that there's nothing good that can come from it. I was being tempted, I guess, attracted to out-of-body experience stuff for a while there, and even sought out a book at the library that had some hypnotic audio trance CD that came with it to really, get you to let down your protective barriers. And I brought it home, and I was gonna go a few different times. I opened it, and I could never get past the first page. And I know now that something protecting me. All of that channeling, all of that stuff, you dabble with that, and it will just leave you completely vulnerable to demonic attack. Fierce astral raping, if you will. Just don't do it. God said don't do it. It's in the Bible. I didn't know that. I learned that the hard way, so just trying to warn you. So then after that, I went through, and I had all these tarot cards and all kinds of stuff in my home that I, treasured, not even knowing that they were evil and against God's way. Just something that my sister gave me once, and that I'd been exposed to just as normal as Harry Potter and all the rest of it. For our kids nowadays, teach them how to initiate into the whole practices of witchcraft and such, and it's so innocent, and we have no idea what we're doing to our children. It's so sad. So I cleaned my house and repented and just keep seeking truth. I learned about Easter and Christmas and Halloween and how you should definitely not participate in those pagan traditions, no matter how beloved they are, and how how you've been brainwashed into thinking that they're okay and that that's the way you're supposed to worship God, because it could not be farther from the truth. And there was a scripture that I found that helped me to sort this out, and it was in Luke chapter 11 verse 34, and it says, "The light of the body is the eye. Therefore, when thine eye is single, thy whole body is also full of light. But when thine eye is evil, thy body is also full of darkness. So take heed, therefore, that the light which is in thee be not darkness." And I think that sums it up in a nutshell. Sure, that's Jesus leading and not a deceiver.